What is happening, everybody? I hope you've had a good...
Back in like 2005, something like that.
I think my first con was so good. It's Friday Junior.
It's Friday Junior, it's podcast day, it's payday.
And when you come out, do it like doesn't matter how you feel about the situation.
My name is Raff, and always before we start the podcast, because we just want to talk about it. We want to talk about music and just share those stories and experience. This is my co-host, Carl, aka the BeerBuddy. He is hailing you.
This sort of weird era where they're sort of right in that post-grunge.
Look, you're fighting the good fight in today's world. My war was fought 40 years ago, really.
We are the two dudes who talk music, and we are here. Hey, I'm too quick on that air horn button, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, that is amazing. I love it. You're second on the dude. Fantastic.
What is happening, everybody? It is me, your good friend, the Reverend Raff, and my pal BeerBuddy. We are the two dudes who talk music, and we are back with another episode of the Two Dudes Talk Music podcast. Mate, how have you been?
Been fantastic, recovering. You know how it goes.
Yep.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
We've been very, very busy. We're not long back from Metal to the Max.
Yep.
We have been cleaning all of the tiny, tiny little red dust particles off of our gear. We have been washing all of our clothes, even the shit we didn't wear, because it is got red dust all through it. I'm going to have to figure out how the fuck I'm going to clean my suitcase.
Yeah, my laptop bag is destroyed. I think I'm just getting a new one. I think one or two things I've just given up on.
But yeah, look, it was crazy. It was a great time. I'm slowly getting my voice back.
Job.
Ash did an amazing job. All of our coverage for that. I'm not sure when this episode's going to be airing, but look, if some of the coverage is probably rolled out on our channel already, if not, it'll be coming very, very soon. So definitely go and check out all those videos. A ton of amazing bands that we spoke to. But yeah, man, I mean, look, it's getting in towards the pointy end of the year. Obviously, we're coming towards
Christmas.
Christmas is coming up soon, so we're trying to.
We got Halloween first.
Maybe it depends when this episode drops. I'm not sure if this will be before or after that.
We'll go Christmas.
But look, we're going to be, as usual, we're going to be doing an end of year live stream. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. We've got to figure out a bunch of cool things to do then. We'll have some cool guests coming in and just having a good old chin wag for that one, having some drinks to celebrate the end of the year.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. It's going to be a great time.
It will. Speaking of great times, we have another amazing chat for you guys today. A Western Sydney band by the name of LØNER. They have this really, really cool sort of like sludgy, stonery sound mixed with a little bit of metalcore elements in there. It's a really, really cool vibe.
It is.
And look, we've been around the traps with these guys. They've been through previous projects and the scene over the last sort of 15 years or so. We've crossed paths very briefly with one another. So, these are some guys that we've been hanging around with for a little while now. And yeah, look, cannot wait to get into this one. So this is our chat with the boys from LØNER. Thank you very, very much for joining us today, gentlemen. We appreciate you all jumping on so we can have a good old chat about everything you guys have been up to. Firstly, want to say, big Silverchair fan from early on in the day. Like Freak Show was like my jam back in the day. I probably played it till the CD broke. And so big fan. Obviously, you guys the same. You got that cover of Israel's Son out there, which is awesome. Love that version of it. But yeah, so you guys are LØNER, and you guys have some awesome sort of stoner sludge vibes going on there. For the people watching at home, like when did you guys get together? How did that come about? And what's the main thing that people get when they come to see you guys?
So LØNER originally started I started it as a solo project, but the band I was in previously, this is like, it's going to sound so stupid, but the band I was in previously, it started with the letter L as well. And I came up with LØNER, but then I'm like, I don't want to do two things that start with the letter L. So I abandoned the name, and our singer took it, and he had a few jams with his mates. And, that sort of fizzled out. And then I come back, and we were living together during the pandemic and working on all that music. And, after we sort of put everything together, we found Josh and John and just went from there, basically recorded the album and then just started playing gigs.
Amazing.
Good album.
So like I said, lots of that sort of, like sludge vibes in there for sure. Very down-tuned, very, kind of like filthy in the best way. You know what I mean? So, and you guys have got a couple of releases out there as well. Obviously, we mentioned the cover that you guys dropped. That came out in December of last year of Israel's Son, and a little bit earlier in the year, you guys had an EP Warning Signs, or an album, sorry, whichever. I think it's kind of in that middle ground between, right?
Yeah,
it's an LP.
definitely.
Yeah.
LP.
But that came a
Bit
little
longer
earlier
than an
in the
EP,
year.
a bit shorter than an album. So.
Yeah. I mean, those definitions kind of lose meaning these days, right?
Yeah.
Like in the era of streaming, when you got people that only ever release singles or, whatever, however they do it, like those definitions really start to go out the window, I think. But, it's a good collection of songs. It really is. It hits that sweet spot. Like I've been over the last few years, I've been getting more into like, that super down tunes, like down tempo deathcore type stuff, and like really like sludgy stonery kind of vibes, and it's just hits that sweet spot, I think, for me with what you guys are bringing there. So Husey, you were saying this originally was like a solo project for you. So how much of that that Warning Signs album was like? Did you kind of write most of that yourself before John and Josh came in, or was that kind of just like really loose things, and then they've really fleshed it out and brought their own vibes and energy to it?
So Warning Signs was I wrote that entire album musically, and Don, our singer, obviously did all the lyrics. But it was just something we had put together sort of during the pandemic when we were locked inside. So we just worked on it. I think we had roughly 60 odd demos, and then we kind of fleshed all that out and pieced it together and just went from there basically. And then we originally started as a 4-piece, so Josh was on bass and we were just going to do 4-piece, but then we moved Josh to second guitar, and then my other friend Joel, who's still with us now, joined on bass. And then we've actually just added a third guitarist. We did get a couple of comments at some shows that were like, was that really necessary? Do you really need 3 guitarists? But he's been a long time friend. Like his name's Ethan, but he goes by the name Alistair. And obviously, life and things get in the way sometimes. So sometimes if people can't make shows, and I've also missed like shows as well, and Ethan stepped in to fill in. So he was asking if he could join the band, and it wasn't really a formal thing. I was just like, yeah, if you want. And then he just kind of started showing up. So I was just like, okay, this is the thing now. Cool. But he's been really beneficial to have. Sorry to cut you off. He's been really beneficial to have, just because when someone's not there, if one of the other boys can't make it for whatever reason, we're able to shuffle between our guys, between guitars and bass. And, sometimes we play as a 4-piece, 5-piece, 6-piece. So we're not playing with 3 guitarists every time, but just to have that, I guess he's part of the band, obviously, but he's also like, I guess, a guaranteed like insurance member kind of thing. So if someone can't do it, we've still got that full sound.
I guess to put it in perspective, like me and Joel are married with kids, so there's always going to be the occasional show that him and I can't make, or both of us at the same time. So having Ethan there has really sort of helped to keep the band sounding full at all times. So it's been really good.
That's actually a really handy way to go about it.
Well, look at Lycanthrope.
Yeah.
They make that shit, like, and even like to go on the right upper echelon of the scales periphery when they started.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
3 guitarists. It's such a good idea
as well. They have 3 guitarists.
Yeah, there you go. Like I guess it's one of those things that I guess is a bit underrated in metal.
I get it. Like I understand the criticism for it and why people are not. I think it's a bit odd because A, it's what they're used to, and B, from the perspective of like a mixing side of things, like it can get.
It'd be a nightmare.
You have a lot going on in that frequency space that makes it really hard. But like you say, it's not something you guys are doing all the time with all 3 of you there, all 3 guitarists there at once. So
more practical than anything. Like for us, like it works for us. So
exactly, and
we
that's what
had played
matters.
one show with all 6 of us there. That was in Newcastle, and that was crazy good.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
fun.
that was a good show. But that was the thing is as well, because of how low we're tuning. So we're tuning to like double drop D, and we're playing baritone 6-string guitars, like 30-inch baritones. So
D1.
just because of how low and sludgy that tuning is, like just having that third guitar there when it is there, it just beefs up the whole sound. But what we do with our bass, we don't tune it down an octave lower than our guitars. Otherwise, it'd be around 16 hertz, and you wouldn't really be able to discern the notes anyway. So we do our bass in unison, so it's in regular drop D. So it's
yeah, that's what a lot of bands that are in that space do. You know,
I stole that from Meshuggah because that's what they do. They with their bass player just tunes to F, high F standard, and he's in with the guitars, and that's what keeps them tight. So I just kind of stole what they did.
Yeah, and look, it's a great way to approach it. You know, like it's putting them all in that space. Like I said, it takes, and from a songwriting perspective, it kind of adds a unique challenge that not a lot of people are working with. And you know, from what I've heard on you know, on the Warning Signs album, like you guys are absolutely like you've done a great job of making those work within that space and having them, you know, not be treading all over one another.
Yeah, sweet. I appreciate that.
You know, and it's hard because, like, you know, when you are mixing something like that, did you have something that you guys did the mixing on yourselves, or did you work with someone outside the band for that?
So we went to Morava Audio, who he's been a long time friend, and I've worked with him on. So me and our singer Don, we have like a nu metal side project, and we mostly just write songs about wrestling and stuff like that.
Bro, wait! Look, no. I don't know if you can see behind me here. Hang on.
Shit. Can I show you something real quick? I don't want to derail it.
No. This is
I'll just show you one of my most prized possessions.
Derail it, man. Derail it. Go for it.
Oh, you boys have done it now.
Oh, look, it's just any time we get someone that talks that's into the wrestling, I have to, you know, what's it got?
Yeah.
Hey, man. Yep. Nice. Yeah. So that's
this.
Hang on, I'll bring this a little closer.
Wow.
Yeah. Nice.
It's signed.
Ringside exclusive, Matt and Jeff Hardy.
Hell yeah.
COA of them actually holding this box up. Find it.
Bro, that's amazing. That's so cool.
And then, like, Sting's my favorite wrestler, hence the shirt. So you probably can't see it behind me. I've got a whole glass cabinet.
So
full
this
of
is
Sting.
This is a custom Dark Order TNT Championship.
That's sick.
Belt with, like, got the Brody Lee on the side there.
That's awesome. I bought the Brody Lee Memorial shirt after he unfortunately passed away because I was a big fan of his work even when he was with that the other company.
Yeah.
And
I'm even rocking the Lucha Brothers today, so there you go.
Oh, nice. Hell yeah.
Are you going to are you making the trip to Brisbane for Grand Slam?
I'm not, unfortunately, but Don is. But me and Don love wrestling, but a lot of the times I can't go because I've got things on. But we went to Deathmatch Down Under. They did like a deathmatch tournament. They had a couple of international guys come in Melbourne, and that was so sick. And they're doing another one in November that he's going to, and he got, I think, 5th row tickets to Grand Slam.
Wow. I think I'm the first raised section there.
Nice.
That's really cool. What's the nu metal project called?
It's called Trench. We've been doing it, I think, since 2016 or 17. So it's just me and him. But yeah, we've got like an EP that I'm super proud of called Coffin Drop, and there's a song on there called Philadelphia Street Fight, and it's about like police brutality in Sydney and stuff like that.
Okay, cool, man. Well, look, send us through the link to that one too. We'll check it out.
Yeah, I will do.
Absolutely, that's cool though. Like it's always nice.
Derailing it there.
No. Look, we got time. We got time, man. We got all the time in the world. We're fine. This is what podcasts are about. You know, you get to go off track a little bit.
Well, I'll see if you can. I don't know if you can see it there, but I've got glass cabinet and it's just full of Sting stuff. It's got
hell yeah,
WWE, TNA. I got some old WCW figures still in the box, like never been opened.
And then jeez.
At the bottom, I've got like a proper WWE shop replica of the ECW World Championship,
bro.
And
I've always thought like honestly, I'm at the point where I've thought if any of my current bands, you know, if I end up with all my current bands like just falling apart or whatever, I'd love to do like I've played with the idea of starting up a group that plays like basically like imagine, you know what Psycho Stick do? The guys in Psycho Stick, basically that, but with a wrestling focus. So like it's all covers of wrestling songs, or like you cover music and change the lyrics to be about wrestling, or write some original music about but you kind of mix it all in together, and everyone dresses like in like a wrestler costume, you know, just for fun and games, and have a gimmick and do that whole thing. I think it's like something that'd be, you know, a bit of a niche appeal, but I think everyone. Everyone loves was into wrestling at some point, so I think everyone would get something out of it.
I fuck with a band that would, instead of a stage, just play in a wrestling ring.
You'd have to stage. It'd be cool. It'd be a lot of work to fucking do.
You'd have to bring the ring with you everywhere and set it up. That'd be like an hour to do that.
But maybe you just have like something you put across the front of the stage that's like, you know, wrestling ropes or something. Like
instead of barriers, wrestling ropes. I was about to say, no, that's sick.
But no, that's cool, man. Like, it's great to be able to have different side projects and do different stuff as well. It keeps it fresh. It means you've got another creative outlet to work on, you know, other ideas that may not necessarily work for Loner. You know, it gives you that space, which is always good. I mean, you know, like I've had times when I've been in multiple bands at once, and it's always helpful because you know you when you're a musician and you have lots of ideas for stuff, and they don't always necessarily work for the project you're in right now. So if you've got other avenues you can utilize those for, it's always a really fun time to
and I mean, like stuff. We obviously would tune differently as well between projects. So like Trench is just in drop C, but I've got this mad this Schecter like semi baritone that I put bare knuckles in, and I just use that. But it's one of them old like tribal Scorpion things. So it's like that. It's got the tribal inlays. Everybody shits on these inlays, but I love them. And obviously, being a Sting fan, it was called Scorpion. It's got a scorpion on the back of the headstock. I'm trying to get it on the camera there. But that was literally the reason I bought it, because I had a scorpion on it, and I was like, that is sick. So yeah, just keep this in drop C. It's got a 26.5-inch scale, and then I smack some bare knuckles in it. And this has been. The guy I bought this off was out in Windsor, and it's like a 2002 model, and he actually bought it in Vegas and brought it back to Australia with him. So,
wow,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's sick.
Mad. That's
awesome.
Mad.
Yeah.
So
see what happens when you get adult money.
Yeah.
Let's clarify now. Husey is the biggest gearhead I've ever met in my life. Like,
you got
I've
the
never
worst
known
case of gas,
somebody
man.
that just knows so much about
definitely.
everything. So.
Well, that's the thing, you know. Like most of our folks, they just go, "Oh, it's just a phase. I'll grow out of it." You know, when they get older, it's just like, no, we get adult money, and then we can just go.
100%.
Yeah,
look,
100%.
Look, Ma.
Well, yeah, that's it. You know, like when I finally had the money, you know, and went and bought a bloody, you know, $6,000 Ernie Ball Stingray.
Oh hell yeah!
You know, with the double bucks in there,
the double humbucker,
humbucker in there, like 5-string. Just the modern one though, the re-upped one, not the classic one, because the newer is so light, and it's like. The tones you can get out of it are amazing. It's the kind of thing where, you know, when you're a guitarist, you kind of and you're a lot younger, you have this idea of like a perfect guitar, you know what I mean, or a perfect instrument. And as you kind of get older and you go through a bunch of different ones, you're like, okay, well, none of them are perfect, you know, but none of them are gonna, you know, like make you play better. But they all have their own like advantages and disadvantages. Let me tell you, when I picked this thing up for the first time, I was like. Oh fuck no! It does exist. Okay, like the kind of it's light. But it sounds heavy. You know, it's got like power in it. You can do so much with it, and you know, like I can see why they are as sought after and as revered as they are. Because it's
I used to have the exact same thought with Dingwalls, and then I got a Dingwall, and that thing was nothing compares to that, in my personal opinion. Like they're a crazy fucking bass.
That was a sick bass. He got a 6-string, and it was the neck was just huge on it.
Yeah. Bit too much for the wrist when you're over 30.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm part of the straight fret gang.
Yeah. No, look, that's absolutely, like, I've fucked around with a multi-scale before. I think
I definitely see how they're ergonomic for some people. It's just not a thing that I found works for me. But they have their, it's like anything when it comes to anything, really. Everything has a purpose. It just depends on who it's for and how they use it.
Definitely. Yeah, I was doing a thing that I didn't end up sort of actually playing with it, but I was preparing for a project that was in, I think, like drop G or something like that. And I needed something that was I was tuning down for that on the bass. So like I needed something that was going to handle that, like a 5-string, fan fret type thing. It was one of the Ibanez sound gear line, but it did the job. Went to like Kalium strings, got myself some nice fat drop sets on that, rocking like 180 or something for the low G on it, and just
far out.
Filthy,
big boy.
Huge fucking strings, like stupid size. But shout out to Kalium strings, like you'll always come through with the good shit. But
please sponsor us. Sponsors.
Anytime we mention a company, it's just please sponsor us. Please sponsor us. But yeah, no, it's so. Is there look, something that is you mentioned that with your new metal project, you've got a song about police brutality in there. Does any of the stuff that you guys are doing for Loner carry much of a political message or anything like that, or is it just more like?
It's more, I'd say it's more visceral. Like, it's probably a better question for Don to answer, but I know a lot of his lyrics are centered around, abuse, rejection, mental health, things like that. Okay. And we've had quite a few people, not quite a few, but just a few people say that, your stuff is a bit tough for me to listen to just because of the lyrics.
Okay.
Well, that's what you want, though. I mean, sometimes it has to be like that in order for the message to get across, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, most definitely. And like, even when the band I was in prior to Loner, we were working on a bunch of stuff that had never gotten used. So we're working on we've put down 2 new songs. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, and we've got 2 more. So one of them will be a single, and then the other 3 are going to be their own standalone EP.
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
And then after that, we're planning another album, but that next album is going to be reworked stuff that we didn't use in our old band. That's going to be, because we've been sitting on it for quite some time, but we're waiting for the right time to do it. So we're going to start working on that soon, and that is all going to be centered around the same thing, like abuse, rejection, mental health, love, all that kind of stuff, and relationships breaking down, things like that.
Well, I mean, that's kind of goes along with. I know a lot of people don't give metal the credit that it deserves in terms of, the art form, but that's what they talk about when they say things like, art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. It's about challenging beliefs and perceptions and understanding of the world, and finding new ways to reframing your own experience and making people think about their experiences and how, and potentially reframe it, what they've gone through as well. So it's awesome that while it's, people saying like it's hard to listen to some of that stuff because of the lyrical themes on there, that tells me that you guys are doing something right from an artistic perspective, and you're not shying away from topics that are difficult to discuss and to hear about.
I feel it's a lot more relatable as well, because not everybody has like sort of experienced happiness, but we have all experienced like our shortcomings and sadness and the feeling of loss and all that. So I think like that, sort of talking about that and putting that out there, it's something that everybody can relate to in some way.
Mm.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. It does. Now I wanted to ask, because you guys have done, you guys have played some pretty cool shows. You guys obviously played a show with Volumes.
That was awesome.
When they were out.
One of my favorite bands, man.
Yeah, that was a really cool show to play, and
it was sick. They I think there was only 3 of them. I think it was one guitarist, the singer, and the drummer, or the 2 singers. And then there was a couple of guys. A couple of them couldn't make it, so they were running tracks, but they still sounded sick. Like,
yeah. But
it's hard, with American touring bands. Like, not every, like I just went and saw Goat Whore and I Hate God, and their Goat Whore's drummer couldn't come over, and you see it, like, it's been going around Facebook and stuff lately, like, bands that are trying to get into other countries aren't getting their visas approved and stuff because everyone's trying to crack down on immigration and all this stuff. And so it's like, it's one of those things. But if you are faced with, a circumstance like that and you can still pull off a good show, which both Goat Whore and Volumes did, it's awesome.
Well, I mean, you talk about that. I think literally, like, within the last couple of days, I've seen Dropout Kings had to cancel their second time on a tour out here because of visa issues, and it's extremely frustrating for their fans because it's, as I said, it's the second time they've had to cancel a tour out here.
The first time was that was during COVID, wasn't it? And they couldn't get over.
I think it was after.
It was just like logistics.
It was. I think it was. I don't think they really gave a reason for the first time. But this time they did say, like, 2 of the 4 of them have not been able to get cleared for visas. So, and which, I mean, I don't know how the visa situation works for that stuff in terms of, can you get cleared before you announce the shows, or do you have to have the shows booked and announced before you can apply for your visas and stuff, or however that side of things works. But it's obviously very disappointing for their fans having that cancelled. So it was great that Volumes were able to make it work. Some of these other bands are able to make it work with, like, backing tracks and stuff like that. And I know people shit on backing tracks sometimes, but look, if you're already running, most people are already running in-ears and clicks when they're touring at that level. So it really doesn't take much to add a backing track of a member that's not there. The only time I'd say that it's probably going to be an issue is if it's, vocals, which is
most definitely.
But, Volumes run 2 vocals. We were discussing this on the way up to Silverton. It's not the day and age now where you can be. If you have the idea of wanting to be a touring artist in your brain, you have to have that whole thing of, I have to be a good boy as well, because it might be the difference between you being able to get overseas. And not being able to get overseas, because now it is a thing. Like, if you fuck up now,
you get arrested, and you can't leave. Like,
you're not going anywhere, man. So you actually got, like, that whole rock star mentality is out the window now. Do you know what I mean? Where you can just sort of muck around and you could get caught by the cops or whatever, and you could still manage to get yourself overseas if you were big enough. Nah, mate, the shit don't fly no more. You got people like Snoop Dogg struggling to get out to Australia, and
I've seen that recently,
and stuff like that. So we're all got to mind ourselves now.
Yeah, and I mean, people are over the rockstar bullshit anyway. Like, no one. I know that you still get some people that but for the most part, I think the average fan and the average person is like, they don't have time for rock stars anymore. They don't have time.
That time's been and gone. Like, it's had its time in the sun. The mid 80s into the 90s.
It's moved on to rappers being the new rock stars. Like, that kind of, that transition happened a little while ago. But you see it now. It's like
they're headlining Coachella and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Like that. And, all these festivals that would have been rock festivals in the 90s, they're all headlined by rappers now. So and I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, like, rock music and metal music is considered a lot safer than it used to be, like, from a societal perspective. Obviously, you still get a lot of people that look at it and don't understand it and want to, have issues with it. But, like, I think generally speaking, it's more broadly accepted than it ever has been. And people are kind of like, oh, okay, like, cool, you're good people. You just like to pretend to be evil for a little bit on the weekends, right? Like, but it's fun. It's fun, and it's just the music that we like and that vibes with us.
That's the funny thing. I was watching some stuff with my kids, and they were getting scared of stuff, and I'm just like, okay, hold on a second. Are you scared of Daddy's friends? Because all my friends are like metalheads and goths and
tattooed up
people, yeah. And my daughter's like, nah, they're all nice. They're all great people. It's great.
So then what's the difference?
Yeah, like she's just like, nah, that's scary and it's out to hurt me. I know your friends aren't going to hurt me.
Yeah, fair enough. But they're the same kinds of people, though. So yeah. But speaking of bands we like, I'm gonna petition for Acid Nymph to make a comeback.
Oh shit! Okay.
OG fan.
Wow.
I think you just made Raph's heart flutter there. He's got a blush.
Man, like
I've been telling Brad to put it back for years.
Honestly, man, like it's something that has been floated. I think we're all too scattered now, you know, like I'm up here, Zach's up here, you know,
Tony's up the coast now too,
Tony's around the coast. I'm not sure where Kai is at these days. And Brad obviously in Sydney and about 10 other bands. So it's, look, man, honestly, it'd be amazing if we could make it happen, but the logistics are just kind of a bit crazy, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, look, it's something that we have floated for a thing like a couple of years ago when we were looking at doing a Tensions Arise kind of one-off reunion show or whatever, you know. There was to try and get more, you know, we wanted we were trying to get a few more bands on the lineup that had women on, because there was, you know, I think there was only one that was on the lineup there, and we wanted to try and get a few more on there. So I did put it out to everyone. I'm like, can we maybe do this? Like, I mean, this Acid Nymph thing, you know, if we all put the work in and sort of get up to speed on the stuff again, we could probably just get back in a rehearsal room, you know, the day before the show and bash it out a bunch of times and be sweet. But I just think for where everyone was at the time, it wasn't really viable, unfortunately. Yeah. But, you know, maybe, who knows? It might happen one day.
We'll hold out hope, because I'd love to see that.
I think a lot
thank you, man. I appreciate you saying that. It's look, even though I wasn't a founding member of Acid Nymph, I did have a lot of fun with that group. So yeah, you've fucking thrown me now.
I mean, to me, it didn't, like, to me, like I'd seen the original lineup play shows, like when they had the original singer, the original bass player, obviously. But I just thought the songs were great. It never mattered to me who was in the band and who wasn't.
Yeah.
And like I'm certain that I'd seen the lineup when you were in that band, probably a couple of times. But I'd seen the original lineup as well, and I'd always just liked all of the music. I just thought it was different, it was unique, and then obviously, you know, the quote unquote, you know, kind of gimmick you guys had. No one was really kind of doing that at that time either in the scene, I don't think.
That's you guys in Nouveau.
Like, we talk about this on the podcast, you know, fairly regularly. It's like, especially these days, there's 1,000 gigs across the country with 1,000 good bands on it. You know, how are you going to stand out from that?
Yeah, exactly.
How are you going to stand out from that? If some people want to come in and they want to say, right, we want to rely on the strength of our music alone. Cool. I respect if that's what people want to do, but if you're going to do that, your shit has to be the best of the best, you know, unquestionable. And there are bands out there that are able to do that, no question.
Sustainability is a different thing.
How are you gonna make yourself stand out from the crowd? Is such an important question, and I think bands are, you know, like there's some couple of bands that are popping around up here in Queensland, and they've made a very, very conscious decision to be an all-female lineup, not out of an intent for being gimmicky, but for, you know, a multitude of very, very valid reasons, I feel. But while it's not intended to be a gimmick, it does provide them with a point of difference, a point of a way for them to differentiate themselves from everyone else that's around there. And it's like, okay, that's those guys. That's what they're doing. That's their thing. You know, it helps stick in the mind, because it's not just 4 or 5 dudes in the same band shirts and jeans they've been wearing all day, getting up on stage and playing a good metal set. Like, what are you going to do that's going to make me remember you is the important question. And a lot of bands, I think,
looks like Sleep Token.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Perfect example. If they were out there just dressed in normal clothes playing that stuff, they wouldn't be nearly as popular as they are. And that's not to say that they don't deserve their success. They absolutely deserve their success. But it's helped them stick in the mind.
100%. Yeah.
And that's as important as anything else these days.
Well, that's it. It creates some, like, I suppose, uncertainty because, you know, some people go, oh, yeah, we know who they are. Some people don't know. Most people won't know. And it's like that keeps you wondering. And you're like, oh, who is this guy? What is he doing? What's he going to do next? That keeps people paying attention.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to go to the show for that one time that they're going to pull the mask off.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But like in terms of us, like originally when me and Don came up with how we were going to do Loner, I was actually thinking of just having him as a front man and then the rest of the band wearing like cloaks and plague doctor masks.
Okay.
But I sweat like a motherfucker. And I was just like, I'm not going to be able to handle it.
Me too.
So I was
Could you imagine Don in a plague doctor mask? That'd be hilarious. That dude sweats more than a...
You wouldn't find I'm big enough for my nose.
But yeah, no. So that was an original idea that we were floating around, and then I was the one that I came up with it. Then I backed out of it because I was just like, nah, it's going to kill me. I just after a normal set, it just takes enough out of me. But then to that point, it's like, you know, the songs we're writing and how low we tune and stuff. I think that also gives us a little bit of a standout thing, so we don't need to fucking wear masks.
Bingo.
That's what I was just going to say, man. I was just going to say, you just leave the mask behind and just try and make everyone shit themselves and down shoot it more.
The brown.
Yeah, well, like
there's not a lot of bands. There's not a lot of bands in Australia playing that
low,
that style. You know, that low. So that's your
especially
distinguishing
like with that
feature.
Feel to it too, which is, you know, my people. So
yeah,
I love every
definitely.
bit of it. When I caught you guys at Metal Alliance earlier the year at the factory, you guys were stand out there.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. That was not a. I don't think that was a great show. I think, you know, we didn't really play at our best that day, and I felt really bad afterwards.
Oh, we had the crowd bump, and once okay, look, I go on anything if the crowd's not really feeling it. Once you throw out your cover,
yeah,
everyone you're gonna and you had everyone bumping by the time the cover came on. So you guys, you done a really good job.
Oh, I appreciate that, man.
I mean, I think a lot of the time we are our own worst critics too. You know, it's really, it's very, very difficult for us as performers to get out of our own heads about it. You know, I know for a fact.
John had that last night. His drum set kept falling apart, and his cymbals were like landing on his snare while he was trying to play.
And then my stick bag fell over on the side, and one of the sticks actually got stuck under my pedal.
Oh no!
Yeah, so I had to use the slave pedal for the whole of Israel's Son, which like I've never done before. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be sloppy, but whatever.
Hey, you got to push through. That's it. You know, that's like
there was no time to like.
You can't let the crowd. That's the thing. Most of the time, the only people, you know, you're the only person that's going to notice there's a problem, and if you're pushing through it, not letting on that there's any issue, the crowd's not going to notice. They're not going to care. It's when you make a mistake and you're like
last night.
Yeah, it's when someone makes a mistake and everyone in the band like looks at them or is like, you fucking oh fuck.
Everyone looks over their shoulder.
Or you make a mistake. Yeah, you make a mistake while you're playing and you're like fucking fuck. You know, just think like so. That is what lets on to people that there's a problem and that there's a mistake.
People see it,
and
definitely.
That's, you know, if you this is one of the things that again, like it look, I've been playing music in one form or another since I was in year 8 in high school. So that's like nearly 25 years now. Old.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it's vintage now is I think the thing. It's like that's where I'm at with things.
Retro.
And you know, like it is. Look, sometimes when I say this stuff, I feel like I'm patronizing the younger people that are coming up or whatever, and that's never my intention to do. So, like, if someone's listening to this and they're starting out playing music, and you know, please don't think I'm being patronizing in saying this, but like, you know, there's so many things that you can learn from the people that have been doing it for a while, people that have been longer. And when I say to you that, like, most of the time the mistakes are not going to matter, because it's true. Like, fans will not remember your mistakes. especially if you don't let on that there's been a mistake, the fans will remember how your show made them feel.
Yeah.
And that is, yes, we perform for ourselves, obviously, but we're putting ourselves out there and we're performing music for people that want to hear it, enjoy music, and how it makes them feel is the most important thing more than anything else. If your drum kit was falling apart, but you made it work, so be it. If you had issues with your wireless and you had to put a cable in so you couldn't run around like a crazy person the way you do, that happens. You just got to fucking deal with it, Like,
you have two kids fall through the pub ceiling halfway through your set like mammal.
Bro, yeah. I forgot about that story. Yeah. Like, it's like you just got to...
happens.
Yeah, this shit happens, and you have to push through,
Me, personally, I've had more technical issues in the band than anyone else. We've had probably more shows with issues than not with issues, and majority of the time it's centered around my equipment. And it's annoying because it's like, I put together a pedal board. I had a professionally put together. Some of the cables they were custom hand-done cables. It's a thing that happens. They go intermittent. They've been changed. And then, the next time it's your wireless. And then the next time it's this. And then the next time, there's a problem with my amp or whatever, So, and it's annoying because it's like you invest all this money and stuff still doesn't work properly. And
I think it was our first show. Hughesy actually had to plug straight into the amp because his whole pedal board was just completely fucked. So he's getting
that's what happened on our first show.
Wow.
Two of the patch cables that were on my board went intermittent and just it took the whole board out. So I had to go straight into the amp, no noise gate, no pedals, and it was like we got through. But I was very disappointed that it's it's because it was our first show and it was meant to be better than it was. But like you said, the crowd didn't notice. Most people didn't care. We got a lot of good compliments, and that was our very first show. And even to that point, that was a show Grindhead Productions put us on.
Hey, and, Tomo.
Yeah, so Tom basically, he said, "Oh, I've got this show," and I was like, "I don't think we're ready." And he goes, "No, fuck you, you're playing it." And he put us on it. And he's like, "Figure it out,
that, man." If Tomo says you're ready,
I love it. Out to Tommy as well.
So,
actually hooked me up with these boys.
Yeah, Tom hooked us up with John, and he gave us our first gig. So we really owe him a lot, and we've got a cool announcement through him that's going to come out. In probably a couple of weeks. We're not allowed to say anything at the minute, but it's going to be cool when that comes out. And we've got a couple of other cool show announcements coming out soon, and like I said, working on the new single and stuff. So we're the ball's rolling, doing things where we can and when we can.
Tomo's
lots of good stuff coming.
Have on your side, man.
He's definitely. Me and Don were in a band called Colonel Slanders, and it was like KFC themed grindcore, and we put on a show in, I think it was like 2016, 18 maybe. It might have been 2018 at Born to Rock in Gosford, and it was called Greasy Fest. And that was crazy. Like, people were putting holes in walls. There was fighting. There was like all sorts of stuff going on. So me and Tom go way back. So he's been really good to us, looked after us, and we help him out. If he needs someone to run the door or something at a show, like Don's happy to do it, and we're happy to provide backline for his shows because we know we can trust him and everything. Because obviously, I'm more than happy to lend stuff to my friends, but I am very precious about my equipment.
Well, the more equipment you've got in your rig, like the more points of failure, and that's exactly. It's always trying to find the balance, and I think that's why you eventually see a lot of old timers, that kind of go back to just, I'm just going to plug straight in from the guitar into the amp, maybe run through a tuner or something, but they'll run through a tuner and then they're straight into the amp, and then it's like that's it. Like, I'm not fucking the minimal things that they can do. It's and this is the thing. Like, I've found, I've gone through different stages of having like tons of stuff on my pedal board and then minimal stuff on my pedal board. And at this point, like, I'm basically even thinking at the moment, I just have a wah. I have the Digitech bass whammy pedal, the big fucking blue,
one,
bass one. Yeah. And then I've got the Dark Glass Atom pedal. And that's where I get a lot of my stuff from. But honestly, I'm even considering getting rid of the wah and the whammy pedal and literally just having that Atom unit there, because it's just less stuff to fuck around with. And it's well, it's so funny though that you
first show and go and put the wire back on.
Yeah. It always happens. I go through phases. I take it off. I put it on and everything. But it's so funny you saying like that band was called Colonel Slamders. I did a Korn tribute set, and the band we called ourselves Colonel Sanders, but it was KER.
It was like you, James, and Six and all that.
It was like KERNEL, so Corn Kernel, and then Sanders with like a Z and a backwards R and shit, like in the Corn style. It's like, just because I was like, that's pretty funny. Like, I think that's a great name for a Korn tribute band. Not everyone else agreed. Not everyone else agreed.
KFC.
But I'm like, it's great because Colonel, Corn Kernel, Sanders. You can put the Z and the backwards R in there, and it's like it just works. It just works, and it's a beautiful. Like, it has all the things you can do to make like that fucking nu metal band name style about it.
Most definitely.
Oh, I could put a Z in my name. I'm bad.
Called canned corn or something.
Yeah, or you can call it like thinking. So what? I mean, I know you've mentioned a little bit. You kind of touched on things there. You guys are recording a little bit at the moment for some new stuff to come out and some shows coming up. Is there any specifics that you can provide on much of that at this stage?
We're sort of one song is completely written and we've been playing it live. It's called LØNER.
Mm-hmm.
The song that's going to be a single is called Heavy is the Head That Bears the Weight of Neglect.
Ooh, okay.
And that's a really, really personal song for me that I wrote the lyrics to. Like, me and Don sort of co-wrote the lyrics. I wrote a thing and then he sort of changed it up to fit his style. Changed a couple of words here and there and some phrasing and stuff. So, that's a really, really personal song and lyric set to me, and some of the things that have been going on in my life quite recently, related to, people in my family. And so the song itself, the original riff I came up with and I was very happy, but it sounded too close to Planets Collide by Crowbar, and I didn't want to obviously rip them off, so I changed the position of some of the notes and the strings that I was playing it on, so it sounds a little bit more like Loner now. But it sort of starts off a bit slow and drony, and then sort of it'll kick into like a slammy breakdown at the end. But trying to sound like Crowbar on this one actually wasn't my intention. I was listening to heaps of Soundgarden when I wrote it.
Yeah, man. Fuck yeah. You gotta, if you're going to take influence, you take it from the best.
Exactly. I'm a Chris Cornell guy straight up. Love Chris Cornell, man. Like, when he died, I was in like shock for like 3 days. I was just like, this is not real.
Yeah, I don't really get crushed about celebrities passing. That one hit different.
I mean,
it's like, and they were around so long and so, like, so frequent as well. And then, I think people don't appreciate the scope of how big they were and how influential they were. Like Rusty Cage was on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, for fuck's sake. Like, how many kids you think heard that song and found that band just from that game?
It was 100%. For me, I found them through that same song on the Road Rash video game. It was a motorcycle racing video game.
It was on PS1, man. That's where it's gonna be.
It was the theme song for the game during the opening cinematic. It was on the jukebox for it and everything. It was, and look, I mean, it's that's a band that is
timeless.
They are. It's when you listen to them. If you haven't listened to Soundgarden, but you like a lot of, like, you go back and listen to what Soundgarden did, and it's a bit like when you go back and listen to that first Snot album, right? Like, you can hear where that has influenced so many other bands that came after. And his vocal prowess is something that's really unmatched. Like, you look at his work across his multiple bands, even his solo stuff that was more sort of pop oriented. And
I fucking love Audio Slave as well. Like, a lot of people I know, they're like, I don't mess with Audio Slave, but man, I love Audio Slave. But
I don't get why people don't fuck with Audio Slave.
Like, could you imagine the the Hall of Fame career that Snot would have had Lynn not passed away.
Yeah, exactly.
Snooze button was my alarm on my phone when I wake up for like ages, but because it's like like it hits that snooze thing, and my missus hated it, so I changed it because it'd be like 6 a.m. and it's just blaring, and she was like, "You need to change that." So now my alarm tone is I can't remember the song, but it's a Kublai Khan song now.
Look, I can't have songs that I like as my alarm tone because I end up hating
them out.
I end up hating them. Like I can remember I had I think I had Power Trip by Monster Magnet for a long time as my alarm sound, and then eventually I just couldn't listen to the song. For about 10 years I couldn't listen to the song because every time it came on I just was like, I hate this fucking song. I'm like, it's just the worst. But
I did that exact same thing to myself with before all that. It used to be the chorus of that Evanescence song, what's it called?
Bring Me to Life.
Yeah, Bring Me to Life. I couldn't
Wake
even
me
remember.
up.
Yeah, so I had just spliced the chorus and made it my alarm tone, and it was just so when the alarm would go off, the first thing he says is "Wake me up," and then that was like for a couple of years, and now that song is like so beaten to death that I'm sick of it.
Yeah. It's so fun. I mean, I think like Chris Cornell was such a just to go back to that. Like
talk about him all day.
Yeah, I mean his you look at his body of work, and like honestly, like when I first got into Soundgarden, I didn't realize just how far back their shit went, and like when you start diving in and going really back to their very, very early stuff, you're going back a long fucking way.
Yeah,
like
hell yeah.
You're delving into like
early 80s, and they were sounding sludgy back then, because like they were grunge
before grunge.
Yeah, but they were also like my favorite song is 4th of July, and that's like so like just doomy, that riff that just drones on. Like I love that. And some of them doing stuff, and then you've got stuff like bands like Melvins and stuff like that. Like that sound, people don't realize how far back they were sounding the way they sounded. They weren't just some group that popped off in the 90s and they're like, oh, they sound like this. Like they sounded like that 15 years before that sound was cool.
Yeah,
their reach was very far spread. I mean, like just an idea for just how sort of they influenced people that came before them as well. I mean, if you can make Johnny Cash want to do a cover of Rusty Cage, then that's all you really need to say.
That's it.
Well,
I mean,
look at what I'm
a Cash man as well. I love Johnny Cash. Like
original rock star, like Man in Black, like fuck all this. Like I don't
showed everyone how it was done.
Yeah. But it was also the Man in Black thing was because he was sick of the way the industry was treating him at the time. So he's like, well, F yous, I'm just going to do what I want. Yep. And so any people of that time like Elvis and all that, I'd pick Johnny over all of them personally.
Yeah. Who else did he cover? He did 9 Inch Nails.
9 Inch Nails,
yeah.
That was special too. Like,
yeah. I mean, the fact that the fact that he looked at
versed in his music too.
The fact that he looked at bands that came after him. He looked at bands that came after him and was like, no, these are really cool. I want to play these songs. Like you say, it's like that's a man who appreciates music. Like you could tell he appreciated music on all levels. He understood music in a way that most people never will. And he saw, past, present and future and just took in all of it. And
most people would just cash their chips on being a legacy act. Like he found a way to reinvent himself in his, later years. Like I think he would have been 50 or 60 when he did the 9 Inch Nails cover.
Yeah, well, it was getting pretty past it. Like not past it, but he was getting on quite a bit by the time he did that. And it's and
that cover itself is quite because it's just acoustic and it's emotional and it's rare for someone from the past to be able to cover a song that came after them, and arguably because it's so different to the original, be on par with as good as the original is, because That Hurt cover is phenomenal.
Oh, it is. It's actually so popular that bands cover the Johnny Cash version, not knowing that they're covering a cover of a Nine Inch Nails cover.
Wow.
Oh, I saw Seven Dust do. You can see it live if you go on YouTube.
Well, they put it on their Southside Double Wide album.
Johnny Cash, y'all, and it's like, nah, dude.
I mean, they would have known it's Nine Inch Nails, but their version was obviously inspired by the Johnny Cash version.
Acoustic.
But you give credit to the original. You say this is, a Nine Inch Nails.
But it's
song covered by Johnny Cash or whatever.
It's wild to see the influence and the reach that some of this stuff's had. So, all right, let's go to. We got a little bit of a question that we've been trying to answer on the podcast lately, and.
You guys will be a good lot to ask.
You guys will be a really good lot to ask about this one. So we have been trying to get a little bit of a consensus on who should be considered the big four of nu metal. Because obviously we got the big four of thrash, being Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax, and arguably others that people think should be slotted in there instead of a couple of the other two. But we've been asking a lot of our guests, and we've sort of put things out there on Reddit to try and find out what people's opinions are. But yeah, if we could get from each of you who you consider to be the big four of nu metal, or the nu metal era, rather. They don't necessarily have to be a nu metal band, but if they came to prominence in the nu metal era, we're including them.
Before the Great Divide came, when everything was just nu metal, before they segregated everything off into their funny little line, graph things.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll go first if the other fellas don't mind.
No, go for it.
Obviously, Korn, because that's where it started.
Yep.
If you're not going to put Korn in your big four of nu metal, fuck off.
No, you can say you're wrong. You're just wrong.
Yeah. And then, so Slipknot is my all-time favorite band, so obviously I'm going to put Slipknot in there. I'm a Limp Bizkit man. I know Limp Bizkit are divisive. People you either love them or you hate them. There's no in between.
Mm-hmm.
And fourth, quite a hard one, because there are a few bands, in my opinion, that could fight for this spot. Mm-hmm. You've got bands like 5 Foot Thick. You've got Snot. You've got 40 Below Summer. But I'm going to give it to the Aussies and say Super Heist.
Ooh, love it.
Because I'm a Super Heist man. I don't care who the singer is. Although I will say my favorite Super Heist album was the one from 2003 that had Joey Byro. It was the one after Burger left. Those songs and that production, I love it.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
I remember hearing their stuff all the time in motorbike videos and like Krusty Demon stuff. It's like they were definitely that band for any sort of motocross or motorbike related video.
Yeah. They they did blow up for a little while there. They had a lot of influence.
Definitely. And even the stuff with the newer stuff when they had Zeke from Mammal back when he was in it. Those releases with him, I really, really enjoyed them. Got the Bounce, awesome song.
Yeah, it's a killer band all around. They've just the fact that they've had such an enduring influence on Australian metal, is it's special,
Definitely. And it depends too, because you could make the argument that Fear Factory belongs in there, but then they were doing more industrial stuff that the other bands weren't doing. So if I was going to do a big four of industrial, they would be in it. Yeah. But you could argue that they belong in the nu metal space as well.
Yeah.
All right, who's next?
I'd probably say Static X over for the industrial space. I'd say Static X over.
Yeah. Well, I feel like they'd both have to be in that space, but
if I was going to do a big four,
if I was going to slot them into the nu metal thing,
Static X, no question.
Oh yeah, because that was actually, I think it was one of my first shows was Korn, Static X, and Fear Factory.
Wow, huge. That would have been sick to be at.
Yeah, that was, I think, the first time Korn came out in 2000.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Something stupid like that.
But even a band like Faith No More, who are I suppose you could say they're nu metal adjacent.
Well, they were doing it.
All their flowers.
They were doing it before it was a thing. Like they were doing it before there was a label for it, right? Like the way they were
100%.
mixing. Well, they weren't really, I guess, heavy enough. Yeah, heavy enough to be considered metal, but it really.
I do think Mr. Bungle had more of an influence on the metal side of things rather than probably Faith No More.
Oh, definitely.
Awesome.
And then what about? And then there's other bands that are sort of new metal adjacent, like you've got like your Disturbed and Godsmack. They're like new metal. Like to me, they're new metal adjacent because they're more of hard rock bands, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, this is the thing, now we can look back with the benefit of hindsight and see where some of these bands went and sort of
they got lumped in.
But at the time they were absolutely just all like there was this explosion of diversity in what metal was sounding like, and that's why it all kind of got lumped under new metal at the time, which is one of the reasons we're looking at this in terms of new metal era, not what we now consider to be a new metal band, because I've always maintained that new metal, that new metal is a period rather than a genre.
100%. Like 94 to 05, basically.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
that's probably the most spot on.
And it's such a debate because if people arguing, there was never a big four, there was like a big six. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but I'm using big four because that's the analogy. That's the analogy, right?
But then you've got a band like Machine Head. Where does Machine Head fit? Because they were new metal, now they're not. They're just metal kind of. You know what I mean?
That 2000s period is just like everyone in there.
Yeah.
It's a mess. But it was the best
PVC
time
pants,
to be a
spiky
musician
hair.
because it just everything got thrown into it, and you didn't have to worry about am I this, am I that. It was just it's just all new metal until we can figure out what everything is. Until more bands come out, everything's just new metal.
Yeah, exactly. And then so there's a band, I don't know if you guys know them. I don't think they're around anymore. They're called My Ticket Home.
No.
And they are awesome. They sort of come around the late 2000s or the early 2010s, but they're sort of post-hardcore with like new metal, I would say. I would argue that you could say they're new metal or at least new metal adjacent. But they've got a song called You All Know Better Than Me. And I've always said, like, when I've had conversations with our singer, that if I was ever going to be like a wrestler or anything like that, that song would be my entrance theme.
Oh yeah. I'll have to make sure I check them out once we've wrapped this one up. So who's stepping up next? Who's dropping their big four next? All right.
Mine would be Korn, obviously, Slipknot, and Rage Against the Machine, and Mudvayne.
Oh, that's a solid four. I'm not arguing with any of that.
Yeah, that's a really, really good choices in there.
I feel like Korn and Slipknot are the unquestionables of the two. My other two there would have to be Limp Bizkit. Actually, Linkin Park, personally.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice, yeah.
Linkin Park,
we got in. We talked about that on the drive up as well. We were like,
Hybrid Theory is one of those untouchable albums too.
For someone to come in, I guess,
relatively late,
relatively late, but to cement themselves as such a powerhouse and make such influence.
But those first two albums, like Hybrid Theory and Meteora were just.
And they did Hybrid Theory when they were like 19 too. Like,
yeah,
incredible albums, man. Timeless albums.
It's crazy. I mean, we had a guy, a friend who is actually based in the US. We had him on last year, and he actually saw Linkin Park before One Step Closer was released as a single. So he saw him at like and he's like, the difference, honestly, like they weren't playing to like tiny rooms, but they were playing to like fairly average rooms and everything. And then One Step Closer came out, and they just exploded. Like they just became one of the biggest bands in the world overnight.
Video production on it was just phenomenal. The look was
one
amazing.
of the most new metal videos ever fucking made.
Oh hell yeah!
Those the red
ninjas,
the red tips, and like it was just it was just such a sick video.
Yeah, and
it was just turn it to no, mom, I'm going to my room.
Yeah, exactly.
Shitty CD player. All
exactly. Although, can I just say
one sentence?
Yeah.
Can I just say, if I hadn't picked Super Heist, I would have picked Dry Kill Logic.
Ooh.
Yeah, underrated. Like that's.
Have you guys ever heard? So, there was a game called MLB 2003 on the original Xbox, or it might have been 360. They did a secret theme song for that called Riot at the Bat Rack. And it's amazing. It's on YouTube and it's awesome. So you haven't
I
heard
love those
that,
little
give that a
secret ones
stuff.
like that. It's such a cool thing.
It's like the ones that they got Avenged Sevenfold to do for zombies.
Call of Duty,
yeah, for Call of Duty.
Hell yeah.
And every
that's
time you set it
dude.
off and you're streaming, your streamer gets shut down because it's an Avenged Sevenfold song. Copyright strike.
All right. So before we wrap up the podcast,
Honorable
there,
mention
gentlemen.
to Papa Roach too. Sorry.
See, I consider Papa Roach to be more of the pop punk sort of thing afterwards. Like they were kind of that crossover in that time between. That's for me.
Album,
but, you know.
They had the first album, which was pretty rocking, and then they went to Tear My Heart Up and Throw Myself Shy. Which look, I love that song. I love that song.
This is the thing. Like, this is why we're asking lots of people, because we want to get the consensus. We want to get the input from lots of different people and try and see where the trends are and amalgamate all the votes. And
the numbers won't lie.
The numbers will not lie.
I'm going to put it out there. Ones that I'm surprised haven't been brought up yet is like, I don't think Skindred's been brought up.
Good band.
They're really like,
very tight band.
They more sort of came after the like they started to get big like after the boom, really. Like nu metal was on the down, but when they sort of started to come out with things like
El Nino's another one. El Nino's one I'm really.
Yeah, the first 3 albums were good, and then, like, in my opinion, they kind of fell off a bit. That's just my personal opinion.
Little bit.
What about Dope? Has anyone mentioned Dope?
No.
I think I'm not sure. I don't have the list in front of me at the moment, but I think there's a lot of bands with like 1 or 2 votes and it's usually that third band, that sort of third or fourth band that people are mentioning. Like first 2 bands are everyone's kind of coming in with pretty much the same answers a lot of the time, and then that especially that fourth one is where we're getting some real curveballs from people. So it's been really interesting to see the votes, and it's like if you're looking at the distribution of the votes, it's like this. It kind of goes off like really high on the first few bands, and then there's a long tail. So yeah, but
social experiment for you.
I mean, if there was a big 8 or a big 10 or something like that, I would be having like Dry Kill Logic and Spine Shank and all that kind of stuff in there.
A lot of these bands, I mean,
dude, I love Spine Shank.
And the thing is, I feel like as musicians, we're in a bit of a bubble too, because a lot of these bands ended up being, the musos loved them, but not so much. They didn't kind of get over as much with like the general population or the general fan base, which is
Does anybody remember the whiny nasally tones from Taproot?
Oh, dude, Taproot are sick. Their guitarist used to play the Ibanez AX baritone, and it had like just one humbucker in it, and it was a 27-inch baritone. And everyone thought it was a signature model, but it was just a model they did, I think in like 2001, and they were like made in Korea. They weren't anything like, nothing Japanese custom shop. But everyone thought it was his signature model because people didn't know what they were. And one of them was on Facebook Marketplace a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months back, and I missed it. And I was like, fuck, because I knew what it was, because I knew the guy from Taproot played it.
Yeah, gotta be quick with that stuff. So look, before we let you guys go for today, where's the best place? Sorry, little bit of dust. Where can people follow what you guys are doing and keep up with any announcements you guys have got going on?
Just the usuals, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We're on Spotify, on Apple Music.
Awesome.
Yeah, just all the normal stuff people are doing. But can I make an amendment and actually change one of my answers?
Okay, yeah.
Has that happened? Has that happened before? Someone
people change. Yeah. Nothing's locked in yet.
I'm gonna swap Super Heist for Sunk Lotto.
Ooh, yep.
Okay, you're not the first.
Not the first to mention them.
That's awesome. They do deserve a lot more love than what they get.
Absolutely.
Especially now.
Yep.
Not to take anything away from Super Heist, but then I go back and I think what, on me personally, has had a bigger musical influence in the things that I like and the way that I play. And I'd say that Sunk Lotto, especially, Make You Feel with the whammy pedal. I do a lot of whammy stuff. Like, if I'm going off just how songs are written and the quality of the songs, I'd probably give it to Super Heist. But when I go back and think of what was more influential on me, it was Sunk Lotto. So I'm going to change that, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course it's all right, mate.
That deserves a vinegar stroke.
Not at all. Not a problem whatsoever. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today, gentlemen. We very much appreciate it. We'll have links to all your socials down in the description anyway. So if people want to follow you, there'll be plenty of options to do so. If you haven't listened to Loner, go and check them out, especially if you like your down-tuned kind of stoner sludginess. It's a nice little, nice little meal for you there.
It is. It's tasty.
And yeah, look, thank you so much to John, Josh, and Husey. We very much appreciate you guys jumping on today. And we will catch everybody on the next one. Peace out.
Peace.
Laters.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We really hope you had a good time. If you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell down there. It helps the channel grow. We are still a fairly young channel and we like to try and grow our audience all over the world. We do also, for those of you who are interested, have a Patreon. It's just a couple of bucks a month. At the moment, you get all the videos early and ad-free, but we are working on ways to increase the value of that and make it a bit more enticing. So don't forget to keep an eye out and check back on what's going on over there. Other than that, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.